Greetings and welcome to Spin a Yarn Live, the Tea Time Book Club and Crafting Circle. Today we're talking about the 5th book in the Myth series, Mything Persons.
Yes, we are.
But first,
you
can interact with the stream by going to Twitter and using hashtag YarnItAll. You can also go to Reddit at r/spinayarnlive and enter the discussion thread set up for this episode. Tell us what crafting projects you are working on during this episode, and what are you working on during this episode?
Well, I just wanted to say I finished my seriously simple shawl.
Was it seriously simple?
For a lace pattern, it was pretty simple.
Okay.
By Wendy D. Johnson, find on Ravelry.com. So I just wanted to show this one all finished off. There it is. All done.
Ooh.
Isn't that awesome? And then I am now continuing to work on the cable knit pullover for my buddy. So it is the princess pullover, which you can find on knitpicks.com. And so you can see I am getting there. This is the body. I'm almost to shaping the underarms. So
You're so good at making progress.
Slowly but surely. So tell us, Paul, what are you working at?
I'm going to do another half a row of this.
Yay!
Yay.
Don't drop things.
It sounded like I dropped things, but I did not. Okay, so the tea we are having.
So, the tea this time around, when Paul and I went down to Florida, we found another, what is this? The Spice and Tea Exchange.
Which you can see.
Purveyors of fine spices, herbs, blends, salts, and teas.
Which you can see right there.
Oh my gosh, look! It's right there! It's right there! Isn't that cool?
It's in your face.
It's my face. And hide behind it on the right side. Okay.
Okay.
So it is the blood orange smoothie herbal tea. So let's.
That sounds all sorts of cray-cray.
It's apparently naturally sweet. So let's find out. It also says, like on the label, it says you can serve latte style with milk or cream, and I'm like, a lot of herbal teas will curdle milk, but if they say latte style, I'm wondering if they mean steam it, like steam the milk first, and then do it. So, or add the milk in. So I'm not entirely certain, but we're more or less tea purists when trying tea for the first time. So we're just gonna try it totally nothing added. It's hot.
Oh, it's gonna be too hot for me. Is it good?
It's good. I like it. Yeah, you'll have to wait for it to cool down for you to have any.
Yeah.
But, yeah,
because my mouth is too sensitive.
You definitely taste the orange in it, and it's nice. Yeah, I think I like it.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
Mything person.
Mything persons, where we go to a vampire dimension. Now I'm gonna lose the book down the couch.
I'll do that. Okay, yeah. So we go to the vampire dimension, and it's kind of, it's, I guess, sort of what is kind of like a gender role switch up, but it's more like monster role switch up, because like Skeeve is he meets up with these two vampires. He's just trying to ask which way to go, and they're terrified. They're like, oh my god, it's a human, run away, scary. So the whole idea of humans are the monsters and vampires are just the regular folks.
Yeah. We get this line about when Guido asks Wilhelm about drinking blood, And Wilhelm says most vampires don't drink human blood because it's one of those supposedly a gourmet thing, but it's definitely an acquired taste. But then he says something about, but you know about what somebody says about people who drink water. And we never figure out what that is. And it's like, I like the idea of this monster swap thing, but a species that actually legitimately drinks blood is going to be scarier than a species that does not drink blood.
Yeah.
Just by nature of most living things wants to keep their own blood inside of them.
Mm-hmm.
If they have blood. So...
I think we lost the feed. Oh, there we go.
It's back.
Alright. I think.
Maybe. It's not moving. Oh boy. We're just gonna push on.
Alright, so, I mean, another thing is that they talk about how the whole place is kind of gloomy and dark and gothic and black, except for the clothing. Like, the people are wearing very colorful clothing. So, again, I thought that was an interesting little sweep-a-do. But let's start with the complaining, shall we?
Oh, good.
So, one thing that I thought was strange was that when they go to this...
The dispatcher?
No. The house that they occupy is not on Deva. Okay? So when you enter into the front door, you've entered into a different dimension. That's how it is bigger on the inside.
Yes.
That's how it's bigger on the inside. They have a courtyard in this house. Now, my understanding of a courtyard, okay, is that it's an area that is still technically surrounded by your structure, by your home, but you are outside.
Yeah.
So there's no roof or anything like that. So wouldn't the courtyard reflect the vampire world? Because when they got there, Skeeve was surprised to find that it was overcast and dreary and dark. I'm like, but in the book, you walked through the courtyard. Was it not dreary and dark in the courtyard?
It could be a bit of localized magic because the vampire dimension also doesn't have good magic. So you would think being in a house in there, you would also not have access to magic, and you would realize that as soon as you walked in. So I'm thinking that, yes, the house and the courtyard and everything are in another dimension, but I think it has like a little bubble of, I don't know, maybe connection to Deva or something.
Okay.
It would be my thought. But yeah, no, that's a good observation that I did not.
Yeah, I was just kind of like, I don't know, but yeah. So anyway, here's another thing that I thought was kind of weird. Now, of course, Bram Stoker's Dracula, oh my gosh, cat. Romanticized or, kind of made vampires popular again, like this kind of stuff. But and so it's a thing that's in the public domain now, right? So you can kind of like Stephanie Meyer and the author we do like Patricia Briggs, and even Jim Butcher. They all have their own version of vampires inside their stories, inside the worlds that they build. But there's kind of a constant. For instance, the vampires are dead. They have heightened senses of smell, hearing, and low light visibility. So, my question is again, when the vampires meet up with Skeeve and he's asking, which way to the nearest town, blah, 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 they're totally fine with him at first, but then they realize that his eyes and his teeth are not the same. His eyes are not bloodshot, and he doesn't have elongated canines, indicating he is not a vampire. He must be a human. Holy gosh, run away. But can they not smell a living being? can they not hear his heartbeat?
So, my thought of this is one thing that myth does a lot with a lot of their species, like the Devils and the imps and whatnot, is basically saying that these are just normal beings that have entered folklore of other dimensions because maybe one of them have traveled there and stories have been told and blown up. So when you think about the Devils, they're not literally devils.
Right.
With those magical abilities, it's just there's so much deal making that in Claw, the stories have been overtold. So I would say these vampires are not vampires who are dead or anything. I could be wrong about that one, but just have kind of enough powers, and they drink blood, that when one of them went to Claw or to our dimension,
well, because they said that vampires, the force lines here in this world are extremely weak. It's not that they're not there, but they're very, very, very weak. But the vampires are capable still of tapping into these force lines easily to be able to turn into stuff like bats or mist.
Yeah.
So, I think the way somebody described it, I can't remember exactly who, but somebody was talking about how they are so good, they are so adapted at being able to pull magic even from the slightest bit of I was about to say ley line, that's not what they call it. Force line.
Yeah.
That when they go into another dimension where the force lines are far more potent, it is so ridiculously easy for them to pull magic and be impressive. So, I mean, maybe that's the situation, but it's kind of just a little thing. In my opinion, the ability, a heightened sense of smell, a heightened sense of hearing, which Oz has. Oz has a heightened sense of hearing. You know, or it is higher than a Claw like Skeeve.
Right.
So I don't know, it's still weird to me that they cannot tell the difference between these clearly non-vampire individuals. I mean, we even get Chumley there at some point, and it's like, and it's just kind of like, really? You can't tell that these people are different? I don't know. It's kind of one of those suspension of disbeliefs that didn't work for me.
That's fair. Yes. What did you think about the Wolf Riders?
Okay, now look. I know we have talked extensively about Patricia Briggs, and we promised we're going to start reading the Mercy Thompson series at some point, and getting into that series and all that jazz. But, you know, you get used to a certain type of interpretation, and it turns into the more popular one, the one you prefer, that kind of stuff. So, from what I remember, and, we were supposed to review this book
like a month and a half ago.
Well, yeah, I think even before we went on our ski trip. We were supposed to review it quite some time ago, in March or February, something like that. So, forgive me if I don't actually get this right. But it seems to me that the werewolves were just anthropomorphized wolves.
Yeah.
So they didn't really have a human form or a wolf form. They just had
that we saw,
stuck it together kind of a form, which was interesting.
Yeah.
I kind of liked them-ish, although I was annoyed. I was annoyed by the way this scene was written. Let me see if I can... Okay, so I have in my notes here, why write the scene of meeting the wolves that way? It sounds like it would have been really funny, to have actually lived through the scene instead of kind of getting this recap.
Yeah.
It kind of falls under the show don't tell philosophy. They just kind of recapped something that sounded like it would have been pretty funny to witness. But we don't get to see it. And Skeeve says something about how Skeeve gets to know the lecture mode of the male wolf, so well in, such a small amount of time. And I'm like, we don't know it. I was totally confused by that line. I was like, okay, he likes to lecture? okay.
Yeah.
I guess. Take your word for it, I suppose. But, to be honest, that's all I remember about them.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, there wasn't too much going on with them. The name is pretty much the funniest thing about them. They did actually, like, the husband was a money grubber, like so many characters in this book is... one, two... Am I coming in? I'm coming in. Okay. Let's see. But then Vic was there. He's the primary bad guy we're looking after.
Bad guy, quote unquote.
Quote unquote. Even though he, as far as I can tell, he basically got duped by the Matt Luana pair.
Yeah.
As much as anyone.
Yeah, like, it wasn't terribly much of a mystery and all that jazz. And also, you know, we really didn't get much of a description of the Wolf Riders, of the husband and wife, and yet Pepe we get this extensive description about, which I thought, again, was kind of weird. Also, I have a comment about how high midnight is a really stupid phrase. It's called high noon because high refers to the position of the sun in the sky. It's at its highest point, and high noon.
Moon does not indicate time of day.
Yeah, the moon doesn't even indicate time of night. I mean, the moon does whatever the crap it wants to do. So, yeah, that was just something that, you know, it's just another little layer that I was kind of like, that you can't say high midnight. That makes no sense.
Yeah, it's there to be humorous, but...
because the idea is, of course, that everybody's out at night. No one's really out during the day, which makes sense, because, again, they're nocturnal creatures.
And, like, some things could probably get away with it, like... If we're, if it was a spoof sort of thing like Spaceballs is.
Yeah.
Or something
or
like that,
Saddles,
making fun of various things. I could see them getting away with High Midnight because it's dumb
and it's supposed to be dumb.
It's a hilariously dumb saying.
Mm-hmm.
But then we kind of have this, even though, Myth is more of a comedy, it's still more of a serious comedy than a satire comedy. So I don't know.
Yeah, it isn't satire.
Yeah.
I think Robert Asprin tries to be in some aspects, but it doesn't come off very well.
Yeah, every so often, but not in this case.
I will say, I did like the jailbreak scene.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was kind of cool, the idea that the stone was actually a living dragon, and it was containing Oz in this manner. I thought it was hilarious how they were just like, Oz, tell me about your day. And he bored the dragon so much that he actually yawned, and then they grabbed him and ran off. And I was like, that's actually pretty funny.
Yeah.
I did like that bit.
There was a good bit. I do like, and this kind of goes more to eventual character growth. But I do like when Oz and Skeeve were talking about what to do about the door. Oz just kind of sucker punches him and then goes off alone. And that is hilarious. And of course, Oz gets his comeuppance.
It's true. Yeah, I mean...
And that's something he's growing to respect Skeeve more, because of course in the beginning he would have just ordered Skeeve to stay behind.
Yeah.
And
in this case he knew he was gonna have to knock him out.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess that is sort of a compliment.
And in future books he does get more respect of Skeeve's abilities and opinions.
Yeah.
And this is not the start of it, but like the continuation of their relationship growth, which is one of the things I like about this series.
Yeah, and I mean, with a character like Oz and a character like Skeeve, it's important that it takes place over so many books.
Yeah.
Because... You know,
and especially with Skeeve, because we're getting a character who starts off as a child and is growing up.
Yeah.
Unlike a lot of series where or especially like comic book series where they stay the same age for their entire run.
Mm-hmm.
This is a kid who is growing into an adult, and we have this kind of friendship, partnership that's
that's
growing as well and having growing pains because like Oz is starting to change too.
A little bit, yeah.
And we'll see more in future books as well. But he's a slower growth because he's, centuries old. He's mature.
That's one of the things that I noticed that kind of upset me. Was that when the whole setup to even get them out there to look for Vic, who isn't dead, or to go and look for Vic, they never specify the amount.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here going, it's strange that Oz didn't notice that. Like, I noticed it. I wrote it down. I was like, they didn't specify an amount. And it's like, it seems like the first thing Oz would ask, how much we getting paid for this job. But they didn't even do that. So it was just kind of like, that's strange. But that's not really...
But then that was brought up at the end of the book that they both realized that the other one didn't.
Yeah.
It was just one of those things. Why would a huge council of Devials come into and demand that you're harboring fugitives? Like, if they're thieves who are fugitives, you don't think that they stole $20.
Right.
That's not really a fugitive.
No. But the mere fact that they did not ask, it was an odd scene, which kind of made the setup for the book just sort of like, It almost seemed like his publisher demanded that there be a book, so he was like, okay, here you go. Kind of a situation.
For me, well, of course, first time I read it was as a kid. And of course, every subsequent time I knew that
there was the amount that was not mentioned.
Right. But I'm pretty sure as first time as a kid that it swept past me too. It's like I would assume that that's just one of the things, like most authors don't describe every time the characters go to the bathroom because nobody really cares about that or wants to read it. Just get on with the plot.
Right, but
so
Oz
it's kind
is
of
all about money. Oz is all about
He's
profit.
so much about money that you would assume that even though we didn't get to see it,
but we saw
that
the
they
whole
know.
exchange.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. No, I see it.
Again, yeah, we're more adults now, so you definitely picked up on that, whereas the kid version of me did not.
Here's another thing I picked up on that I thought was odd.
Nope.
So they're all talking about what they're going to do and all that jazz, and Chumley swats Tananda on the rump.
Yeah.
Now, I can't remember what for, but I have an older brother, and if he ever did that to me, that would be really weird and creepy. Like, I don't care that they're trolls. That's weird and creepy.
Yeah.
He's your older brother. Like, it's just kind of like, why? It brought nothing to the, like, he's chastising her for something. He's just gently, like, oh, why would you do that? Why didn't you just, back of the head. First of all, back of the head's funnier. Okay, it's funnier.
Yeah.
Second of all, it's not creepy. Robert Asprin, creepy. You're dead, but whatever, creepy.
Yep.
Now, there is a nice little discussion about the loyalty to Skeeve. Everybody is like, oh, we're gonna help him out, and we're going to follow him, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, oh, it's a really sweet little scene, and it's really nice. But he's done nothing to warrant it. I mean, he's gotten away with dumb luck and stuff in the past, but he's just not... I can see them doing that for Oz.
Well, I feel more that it's the idea of, I would almost say, innocent naivete. In a very similar way of why in the Hunger Games that nobody really understands, apparently, we might get to that because I have words about that series. Or more words about people thinking that story is like a love story when it is not.
It's a story about addiction. Okay?
Yeah. It's a story with a bad ending, or it's an addiction story with a bad ending, not a love story with a good ending. Just gonna put that out there. Anyways.
I don't like pizza. Sorry.
But that kind of thing with Katniss wanting to protect Peeta because he's so naive and innocent that somehow he can get through these games and still have goodness.
Like, the idea is that, as you say, if he survives, he's not going to become a drunk like Haymitch. He's not going to become this, like, warmongering, evil person. He's a good person who shouldn't have been chosen for these games.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, he's a baker.
Yeah.
He shouldn't be here, and that's true.
Right.
He shouldn't be there.
I don't know how he didn't end up with PTSD. Anyways, we'll talk about that series later. But what I'm saying is, Skeeve has, and I believe this, Skeeve has a good heart.
He does.
He has a set of morals that he really believes in, even though he wanted to be a thief and then become a magician to help himself be a thief. He still has good morals, which he brings up at some point that Oz always chastises him about, an honest crook is an incongruous statement or something. But, so there's a goodness about him and that knowledge that he will throw himself to the wolves for his friends. And there's a certain, I feel like, security in that. That I think is what they're following around. Like, yeah, most of them probably stay around because Oz stays around Skeeve.
Yeah.
But
here's my thing. Yes, I'm not arguing that he's not, at heart, a good person.
Right.
And that, yes, he does want to protect his friends, especially if they have tits. And he has a sense of loyalty, and he has a sense of, I gave my word, so I need to follow through.
Yeah.
And that's all well and good. I just don't think he's a particularly good leader. He's not experienced enough. He's not intelligent enough.
Yeah.
Like, there was one point I have in my notes, I am truly shocked and surprised that Skeeve knows the word acrophobia.
That's true.
Like, I was really shocked to hear, an SAT word come out of his mouth. I was like, whoa, you're not smart enough for that. I don't know how you know that. You didn't read it in the book. You don't read. I'm sorry, I'm mean to him, but...
Yeah. Well, I mean, half of his plot, especially in earlier books, is him not knowing things. He's the audience point of view, so he asks all the questions about the world that...
Right.
We don't know,
which is fine. But this is the fifth book?
Yeah.
Even by the fifth Harry Potter book, we weren't asking these many questions
right.
to me and this, and I.
Which is why Skeeve is starting to be more and use more SAT words. Though, yeah, knowing agoraphobia seems
a little above his pay grade.
Yeah, at the moment.
At the moment, yeah.
And again, he's constantly growing professionally. And we don't see too much in the magic. But another thing is, when he decides to lead, like that first or the second book, when he's with Tananda and
the Archer
Ajax and all those.
Gus, yeah.
He has good instincts, and I think most of the others are traveled enough that they can protect themselves or know enough to offer other suggestions or whatnot if Skeeve starts doing something truly wrong and bad. But I think they're also there because they see potential. Not that he's a very good leader right now, just that...
Yeah, I think you're right.
They want to help him grow, yeah.
It's just he's growing awfully slowly.
Yeah, he's a clod. What can you expect?
I suppose.
So
So what, if you recall, again, it was a while ago, but do you remember your favorite opening chapter quote?
Oh, no, I don't.
Oh. I've got a couple that I wrote down. Let's see here. What do I have? Oh, I don't see any... I don't see anything thrilling about it by Michael Jackson. I sort of shrugged at this one because I was like, these are vampires, not zombies. This Thriller song is about zombies. Fred Astaire. First, let's decide who's leading and who's following. That one made me smile a little bit. But my fave has got to be Nice Jail. Looks strong. Harry Houdini.
Yeah.
That one was good. I was like, all right. That made me laugh.
One that definitely... To survive, one must be able to adapt to changing situations. Tyrannosaurus Rex. Of course, one that I found... So, one of the things about comedy is the idea of assigning superiority. If you can feel superior over a subject, you are more often to find it fun or enjoyable. I just bring that up because this one is definitely one of those cases. Reliable information is a must for successful planning. Christopher Columbus. Mm-hmm. No.
And he wasn't successful. He didn't get to India. He was supposed to get to India. He didn't.
No.
There was a big old continent in his way.
Yeah.
And he was not nice to it.
And it's not that nobody believed the Earth was round, because they've known that for millennia. But it was that he thought that the Earth was smaller than every calculation showed it to be.
Right. And he also thought that there was nothing between the Atlantic Ocean and the Pacific Ocean.
Which seems
weird. Well, again, if you thought that was smaller, I guess I can understand that. But nope, you got two rather large continents blocking your way there.
But my favorite, and I'm going through making sure I don't get another favorite, is chapter 2, actually. And that is, success often hinges on choosing a reliable partner. Remus. Which is, Remus and Romulus. Yeah. The one who Rome was not named for.
Yep.
So that's fun.
I know. But every time I see Remus, it makes me think of Romulus, which makes me think of Star Trek.
Oh.
Also Lupin.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. And then his partner. Actually, that kind of makes it funnier. If you think of it in terms of his partner being serious. They all did. Yeah. But anyway.
Yeah, Harry Potter Star Trek crossover. Makes sense.
Yeah, about as much sense as the Star Trek
X-Men
crossover. Gee, why isn't Professor Xavier here? No reasons. You've got Captain Picard! Yes, but no reasons. Isn't that weird how they did that in a comic book? Like, they did the crossover, and yet... So, yeah, Xavier was absent. But they had Captain Picard, and it's like, it's a comic book. You don't have to do any, like, body swap stuff. Just draw them. It's fine. It's totally fine. They can look alike.
Yeah. And it doesn't even have to be a plot thing.
It doesn't. They just look alike. Whatever. Make one of their noses slightly different. Doesn't have to look exactly like Patrick Stewart. Even though Patrick Stewart is awesome sauce. Everybody knows this.
It's true. Oh, jeez. I have a little bit of a wrong thread coming up.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Poke it back down. So yeah, that was mine. So I also want to start a new segment on this channel. And of course, this is a great book, and next book is a great book to start this on, but that's okay. But I was reminded the other day of the Bechdel test. The Bechdel-Wallace test. And some of you might already know where this is going and might be laughing that I'm bringing this up during this episode. But this was... It started in a comic written by Miss Bechdel, where the characters, females, are talking about going to the movies, and one says they only go see movies that have, or that pass this test. And the test is, there's two female characters, they talk to each other, and that conversation is not about men. And as I was looking on Wikipedia, and as of, I think, 2016 or 2017, only 58% of films actually pass this incredibly easy test. I mean, I think even romance comedies or chick flicks have the opposite of multiple men talking to each other, not about women.
Well, yeah.
So I would say, I don't know what the percentage is of men talking. I feel like it's pretty close to 100%. And so that's kind of this thing that's been taken up by kind of feminist views of media and whatnot, just to bring up the lack of women in major media.
Yes.
Now there's a bunch of other tests too. So I kind of want to just add this segment to talk about some of these things. Does the book pass, fail, the various tests? Just kind of an interesting analysis type thing. So, Bechdel-Wallace test. Does missing persons pass? And the answer is a barely yes.
Real close.
Real close. There's one scene where Masha and Tananda are talking about costuming for their disguises. And, you know, two women talking about fashion, I feel, is pretty close to two women talking about men in the whole representation viewpoint. But they're actually...
Are they talking about fashion, or are they talking about how to disguise themselves to make them look like
They're talking about how Masha doesn't like the idea of a muumuu. And how has a few extra pounds. And...
You know, I like Masha because she actually kind of has a personality.
Mm-hmm.
Barely. Tananda has a personality. Kinda. But in this book, she was so downtrodden, and there was, you know, a lot of references to her physical appearance, and I was getting really annoyed.
And there wasn't as much positive views about it either. There was like there's a lot of the negatives that come up, but none of the positives. So that's a bit...
Like I have right here, someone was referring to the balloon going up or whatever, and they say, no offense to Masha. And I was like, are you referring to Masha as being the balloon? Oh my god, like, I was really upset. I was like, are you kidding?
Just saying no offense to someone does not mean that there's no offense to that person.
Right? And it was like, you didn't even have to say that. Whatever. Yeah. Balloon going up. I mean, it doesn't have to refer to a person being the balloon. Yes, Masha is the one raising them up, but I was like, if you hadn't said no offense to Masha, I wouldn't have been so angry.
Yeah.
I was like, you know, apologize for a really bad pun, but don't apologize for insulting somebody. Oh my god. Like that, in such an offhanded way.
Yeah, in a sorry, not sorry sort of way. Yeah, so other than that, there were, I think, like 3 or 4 other occasions when one woman directed a line to another woman, but there was no direct response. Mostly because it was part of groups.
That's not the only thing of the test, though, isn't it?
No.
I mean, there are other things.
No. The Bechdel-Wallace test is 2 women who talk to each other about not men. It should be a very simple test to pass.
Oh, I thought there were more... I thought there were more criteria.
No.
Okay.
No, that's the only criteria.
I see.
That's the only criteria, and only 58% of films last year or the year before were able to pass that. So that's kind of one of these Hollywood things. So, yeah. I'm throwing it with books just because it'll be fun. Yeah. So another test is the Mako-Mori test. This is test where there's a female character who has a character arc that is not about the male's character arc. And in this book, we don't have that.
No.
Missing Person fails out. However, the next myth book we're going to review does pass that one. So, yay, Robert Asprin's getting better.
Getting better. He can't get any better. He's dead.
Well, in terms of where we are in the book so far. in terms of 1984 to 85, he's starting to get better.
Okay.
So that's the Mikamori test. Then there's the Vito Russo test, where there is an identifiably LGBT character whose removal from the media would break the plot. We don't have that.
Well, no.
Yeah.
It's 1980, whatever.
Yeah, the 80s. Slightly, yeah, all of these slightly more forgivable in the past, just because we've grown some as a country. But, you know, we're working on it. Or as a society. So that's one.
Now, in Patricia Briggs' book.
Yeah.
Yeah. If something happens to Warren, or if something happens to Kyle,
yeah.
they're going to be a situation.
Or, yeah, without Warren in there would be... Anyways,
Be hard.
And then even One Piece, in like 2 of our episodes of One Piece...
We have Bon Clay.
We're going to get, Bon Clay, who...
Oh, we haven't reviewed Bon Clay yet.
No, so you shouldn't have mentioned that. Spoilers.
Bon Clay.
Bon Clay.
You don't know who he is unless you read/watch One Piece.
But he is important to the plot.
He is very important to the plot.
Okay, then we have... And it's not a secret that he's...
No. It's quite obvious from the get-go that he's everything.
Okama. Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah. I mean, Okama in Japanese is slang for gay people or cross-dressers, which, thank you, Japan, you know, those happen to be the same thing. Apparently, no, not even close, but that's the term that's used for both those, and Bon Clay is both, but in a very lovable way.
Oh, he's awesome. We love him.
He's the best. Then there's the Degum Shokla test. This is more about racism, where there's 2 non-white characters who talk with each other and don't bring up their races. So that should be another easy one.
Blade!
Yes. We don't really have races in myth.
Yeah, well, I mean, we do, because Devils and
we have, the
trolls
different
and
species. I mean,
those are races.
Can they interbreed?
I don't think so. That means they're different races.
Species. Races can breed together.
There's no such thing as races. Remember? Bill Nye the Science Guy.
Yeah, there's no such thing. But breeds can breed together. Species can sometimes. Once you get up to the families, you can't really breed without.
Yeah, you can't breed a dog and a cat, but you can breed a Labrador and a Chihuahua. Why you would want to? No idea.
Labrador.
Did I say Labrador? I meant Golden.
Oh.
I've seen that's the one I've seen is Golden and Chihuahua, and I'm like
Golden Chihuahua.
I don't like Chihuahuas. Goldens are fine.
Yeah, and despite there being a lot of different types of people in here, none of them are good allegories for race, which is great. Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And I don't know what like the creators of Zootopia were planning. But Zootopia is not about race. There's no way to make that allegory work for any race.
It doesn't.
And trying to read race into it makes things really bad.
Weird.
Now, I don't know what the creators were going for, and if they were, they failed badly.
They failed really
bad.
But
when I watch Zootopia, I don't see real-world racism. I do see,
the Zootopian racism.
Or speciesism or
right.
whatnot in Zootopia. And the idea of discrimination is bad is just kind of that generic thing without having to bring
actual
races into it.
Historical stuff into it. You can't do that because people don't usually eat other people. Right. I mean, they do. That is called cannibalism. And in fact frowned upon in most societies.
Thank you,
Johnny Depp.
Yes.
Willy Wonka.
Thank you. So we have a lot of different demons in this book. None of them make good allegories, and that's fine. But there's also no real talk about discrimination. There's discrimination against perfects, but perfects are kind of a dominant force.
Yeah, because, like, even though someone might throw it around and say pervert instead of perfect, once you get the actual perfect, like, bristling, they back off immediately, because they do have a reputation of being violent and of being quite powerful. And you know Oz is powerful. He might not have any of his magical abilities, but physically, he is extremely strong. Yeah.
And then the Veals are very powerful in the business sense. They're very kind of respected. Trolls, of course, are powerful. Trolls and trollops.
Not so much.
Clods, not so much, but there's not too many of them in the world.
That's right.
And really, Skeeve doesn't get discriminated against, and especially now that he's a powerful magician, which is pretty much the only Clods that most people see, which is why in the vampire world.
Well, I mean, he has a kind of a different sort of discrimination in that people assume he doesn't know what's going on. Yeah. They kind of assume he is a clod. He is not intelligent. He can't figure things out. Now, of course, that's just more he's ignorant, but he's learning.
Yeah.
So,
and he's building a reputation, as we get at the beginning of this book. He is building a reputation that he's pretty powerful, and not only does he have acquaintances with demons, he actually is friends with them. Mm-hmm. So there's a bit of that. The only species in here that I would think would be kind of a minority status, if you will, would be imps. But we really don't see them that much. There's no imps in this specific book, so if we had the imps in here, I might give that one a little bit fast, but this is kind of a pseudo non-applicable one, even though it's applicable in every piece of media, because there could be another Clod who is of a different race than Skeeve, who is shown as blonde, white, and blue-eyed.
Which I think is how he is described.
I think so.
But, you know, it's always a crapshoot when it comes to cover artist. I mean,
just look at the Dresden Files, because he doesn't wear hats.
Never wears a Stenson.
Okay, so that's that one. Another fail. So far we have one barely pass, 3 fails. The last one is the Latif test, which is again about racism, so this one automatically fails. But
well, it's not applicable, as you said.
Yeah, not applicable.
It's not the same thing as failing. It's not applicable.
I'm going to argue with that, because that's a way that racists could say, oh, it's not applicable for this book. I was writing about a white community. And it's like, yeah, but you could still have other races or women in your book.
Nope, only the trollop. That's what she is, by the way. She's a trollop. Yep. That's the term for a female troll, which actually kind of gave me a little bit of a...
Yeah, that's funny, and because she's not just a sex symbol, it's okay. Well, she's an assassin,
I suppose. I mean, she is, yes, she's a capable fighter, she is an assassin, she is intelligent.
Yeah.
But she's still kind of played off as a bit of a playboy bunny.
Yeah. Though we're finally in this book getting to the point where Skeeve is seeing her more as a sister than as a love interest, which is super nice. Yeah. Because now Tananda can start actually growing as her own, which we'll see some growing pains next book. So yeah, the Latif test is 2 non-white people who are not involved with each other have a conversation. Or, no, not have a conversation, but, well, either they have plot... I didn't write down well. You could see my notes look crap. Either have conversation or have plot that's not about the white person. And, importantly, which is where a lot of things somehow magically fail, especially sci-fi fantasy, the non-white people are not magic.
Blade!
Yes, Blade is very good.
I like Blade.
In fact,
always like... Oh, I remember when the Nostalgia Critic made a stink. Not a stink, he just kind of mentioned about how... not Deadpool. Maybe it was Deadpool. Deadpool was like the first rated R comic book movie, and it was like, how do you sleep at night, internet? Because there's Blade. There are other ones, but Blade was the one that was mentioned, and I was like, Blade, I love Blade, you know. But anyway, sorry, Blade.
Yeah.
The first one. the first one. Just gonna
And that's also
clarify that.
one thing I was thinking of is these last two tests, when there is an actual like black or minority lead, it makes it easier for the movie as a whole to pass this test, because sometimes the lead needs to talk to someone else, and sometimes there's another person of non-white status. Sometimes. But even in Blade, which is a black lead, we get multiple white characters.
It's really just Blade, his mom, and then the lead female, who I'm very sorry, I've forgotten her name.
The not quite love interest. It's like we're going to make it seem like she's a love interest, and then she's not. That's cool.
She's not a love interest at all.
Well, if you've watched Hollywood movies, that's kind of the assumption.
It was kind of the assumption that she was going to be, but then they didn't, and it was great.
It was great.
It was so good. She was like, I need to get back to the hospital and do more research.
Yeah.
Okay, bye.
Once you actually know that she's not the love interest, you're like, oh, need to rewatch this.
But yeah, but that's pretty much, in terms of characters of color, that was really it.
Yeah.
There was the one little black girl who like kicked Blade's butt in one scene, which was really funny. But again, she didn't even have a line.
Yeah.
She just was good at gymnastics.
Yeah. So those are the 5 tests that I found on Wikipedia. I am interested in making other tests, especially when it comes to like sci-fi books or whatnot. Maybe something about magic. I had an idea the other day, which I can't remember.
You should have a little whiteboard checklist. We could totes do that. Anyway.
Yeah. So that's this book. Again, 1985. Slightly more forgivable back then, just because
it was a different time.
Different times. Not fully forgivable because, come on, we've been around for 12,000 years.
People are dumb.
Yeah. Get over it. This whole in-group, out-group.
Anywho, next week
is Deadbeat!
I've been yelling and carrying on about this one for months now, and finally, we get to read Deadbeat.
So
very exciting.
What's your guesses without giving any spoilers away?
Ew.
Which of these tests do you think Deadbeat might pass? Because Dresden, especially in the beginning, is very male-centric.
It's pretty male-centric. However, I do think it will pass the 2 women having a discretion that doesn't have to do with men.
The Mako Mori test.
Mako Mori test. Well, now I'm trying to think of who else, like, Karen Murphy actually talks to.
Yeah.
Because she really hangs out
She's
on
going
the
to
net.
be kind of the key to the feminist portions of this.
Yeah. Did she ever talk to Charity?
I don't
Charity
know
being Michael's wife.
Yeah, I'm not sure about this book. She does eventually.
Yeah.
So I don't... there's also...
But in terms of race...
The only racial person I know of
only
in
I
the
can
series
think
is
of-
Sonya.
Yeah, he's the only one I can think of. And that poor guy, I mean, you know, he was a black guy who grew up in friggin' Russia. You know how many black people there are in Russia?
Him.
Like,
oh.
yeah, like 2! I mean, there's... Oh my god. But yeah, so there's him.
Let's see, the LGBT test, which is the Vito Russo test. Not knowable. So, like, the Vito Russo test, if you think about it, like, with Harry Potter, yes, it's been stated that Dumbledore is gay, by the way, spoilers. It's not spoilers. It's never mentioned in the books.
It's not, but but he is flamboyant.
He's flamboyant, but it's not once you know, you're like, I can see that. Yeah. But it's not kind of identifiable on the first read, which is why there were people who
freaked out.
upset.
I mean, when I first learned it, like my sister told me, because she's just on the internet all the time. But my sister showed me one of the little memes that popped up of the cat that was like, you know, and it's like, Dumbledore is gay, and I giggled at first, and then I was like, no, yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah,
he totally is.
But so Harry Potter would still fail that test because he's not identifiably LGBT.
I guess not, but that's the idea. They're not... Yeah, but anyway.
Right. Yeah, that's... Again...
J.K. Rowling did a fair job with that.
She did a really good job with that. That the idea there is more... Or, like, it wouldn't have been hard for him to have a boyfriend or have lost a boyfriend or something.
Well, he did. The evil dude.
Yeah.
Grendel, whatever his name is.
But something brought up kind of earlier, and then
you kind of read more about it in the 7th book.
Because, yes, in real life, it doesn't really matter. People are people. But in fiction and media, having someone identifiably similar to you is very empowering.
Yeah. I'm trying to think, because, like, in Dresden, we certainly get a lot of sexualization of both men and women.
Mm-hmm.
And so, especially with the vampires and the fae, sex is just kind of sex. Like, whether you do it with a man or a woman, it doesn't really matter. You're getting pleasure, and pleasure is the point. So I don't know if we have any actual just... like Warren and Kyle and Patricia Briggs, like, we don't really have any that I can think of off the top of my head, full standing characters who, yes, they identify as LGBT, you know, one of those, or all four, whatever, but are you know, central to the plot. You know, none that I can remember off the top of my head.
That it might fail that one. We might be surprised at some point.
We might be surprised at some point.
But nothing that's coming off the top of our head. And then, I don't know if that's actually Latif test or if it was just me putting an arrow as an additional to the race one. I'll have to look that up, so I'm not making things up. But non-whites who are not magical. Which, again... So
Karen...
Well, she's white.
Yeah, and she's non-magical.
Yeah, I'm saying non-white characters who are also not magical.
Oh, right.
So in that one... I mean, Sonya might pass.
I don't know.
I don't know
like,
whether that...
I feel like the Knights of the Cross are kind of sort of special.
Yeah. But what this test is more about is if you think about Pocahontas, how because she's Native American, she has this attunement with
or the Cursed
nature.
Child. I didn't actually read The Cursed Child, but I heard some bad things.
So yeah, it's more that innate thing. I think Sonya might pass because he rose up to gain that power. I don't know. That's kind of a hard one.
It's a hard one.
But yeah, so I think Deadbeat has a chance
I'll tell you what Deadbeat has.
of passing one.
Deadbeat got zombies.
It's true. Spoilers.
And Deadbeat got Sue.
Spoilers. Anyway,
I've been yelling about Sue for like a year.
We'll read Deadbeat next week. We're still kind of figuring out a little schedule or whatnot, so I'm going to swipe in Sabriel for the week after that.
This one will not
no
cross
comments.
off any of the...
Oh.
Will not cross off some. But the main character is a woman. Ha! Ha, ha! And it's written by a man. I like it. It's a good series. Also, this one's got a cat.
It's a...
This cat's good.
Okay, so it's
He's not good, but...
Yeah. Anyways.
Think of Salem from Sabrina.
Yeah. So we got those two. Coming up, read the books. Tell us how you did with your projects.
I got 2 rows.
Oh my goodness.
What up?
I think I got a quarter of a row.
I say row, I mean round. I got 2 rounds. Round.
See, that changes everything.
I know. It does. It does. He jokes, but it does.
I have no idea.
I'm knitting in the round. See how it's circular? I don't have any seams.
You're a seam. I don't know. Okay, so next time, Deadbeat.
Deadbeat. Deadbeat. It's good. You'll like it. You will enjoy.
Bye.